Okay. Right. Hello everybody. So this is just going to be a sort of short little tutorial-ish, I guess is the easiest way to put it, or guide of how I found a workaround to make my model appear to have more tracking than it does. So I'm using an old model so that you can see the before and after. You can see I move my mouth. It doesn't have much movement to it, even though I'm moving it a lot. My eyes, if I open them as wide as I can, they don't really move. My eyebrows don't move. So you can see it's just not got a lot. It's got the very basic tracking. Now, people just automatically assume that if you're using a webcam, you cannot track certain things at all. That is not true. You can actually find workarounds for it, and you can essentially fake the more in-depth tracking, which I'm about to show you. So, this right here is my older model. Actually, let me just check. I have capture cursor on? Yes, I do. So this right here is my older model. Before I added everything else, it looks but like virtually the same, but I figured I would just switch over to it to show what the old tracking looks like. I haven't done much for the mouth for the new model, but you can see a little that by default my neutral face is smiling, and you can't see when I frown, or you can't see my mouth, you know, fully relaxed. It just always looks smiling. If you want to have a bit more realistic tracking, I hop over into this one over here. And we just give that a second to load. You can see, oh, I'm a bit more zoomed in now. Let me just adjust that. I'll move me over a little bit. But what you can see is my relaxed mouth. Doesn't have a smile to it, but I can make it smile a little. I don't know how well that's picking up, just because the lighting I have right now isn't great, so it might be a little hard to see. But I can also do stuff like this. I can widen my eyes just by lifting my eyelids. I can also raise my eyebrows, or do both. So this is a very subtle thing, and once you learn how, you can add virtually anything you want. So, like, what is that other tracker that people use? Sorry, I've just realized I've got my TV playing in the background. That's probably quite annoying. I can find the remote. Oh yeah. That's another thing. I also have some of my expressions toggled. So if I smile really wide, you can see it triggers my joy emote. But that's only if I smile very wide. So for example, if I am laughing, then it would do that, and you can see that it just sort of adds a little more life to the character that you would typically have to just use manual toggles for, and that you just like kind of can't get normally with your average tracking. So the way that I do this, we hop on over. You can see over here I have my character and I have my expressions. So along with my regular expressions, I also have these here. So we have my general, I have joy, angry, sorrow, fun, surprised. These all come by default as the regular expressions that you will have with Vroid. We all know them. We don't always love them. You see, I've also got my added expressions here. So this one is a toggle. So don't worry about this one. That one's not really important. But we have lift eyes, we have wide eyes, lift brows, wide eyes, and we have frown. Now, this doesn't mean angry. It doesn't make my character look more grumpy. But it's just a more relaxed mouth for when you're not always smiling, because it just gives you a little bit more realism and you can have a little bit more control over whether you want your character to be smiling or not. You don't have to add this one. I just wanted it because I'm usually quite a neutral person and I find that just helps convey it a lot easier. I also have yawn in here, which I can show. If I yawn, my mouth shape changes. So if I just open my mouth wide, it's quite flat. But if I want to open it really wide, like if I was yawning, my eyes close and my mouth gets a lot wider. So again, this just adds a little bit of realism and animation to your model that you might not otherwise have. So this will all depend on how your tracking works generally, because everyone's tracker is different. I use MediaPipe specifically because that's just what I use. I found it's the easiest to get along with. Not tried too many of the others, but if you're just using a webcam like I am and you still want to be able to get some realistic movement, you can use MediaPipe, and then what you can do is, if you want to take a look at what your tracking is capable of accomplishing, you can go to configure BlendShapes. And here, you can actually see what exactly is being tracked and at what amount. So, if I blink, you can see this bounces up. If I look down, you can see that goes up. If I look right, you can see that there. It's not super great tracking, because this is just using a regular webcam, so it has no infrared. But it can track your basic left and right, squint, stuff like that. So if I squint doesn't work super well for me. It tries to register it more as blinking than it does squinting. But just have to turn that off real quick. But as you can see through the BlendShapes mapping, you can take a look at what is being tracked. So, for example, when I wanted to change my brows so that I could raise my brows if I wanted to, and it only works for both brows at the moment, I don't have a BlendShape set up for me to control my individual brows, but I will eventually. If you want to do that yourself, if you know how to, then it is possible. But here's the brow down. That doesn't do a lot for me. I can't really move my brows down, so it's not going to track it very well. But if we go to brow up, we can see, at least as far as my webcam is concerned, it can track my eyebrows going up and down, which is what we want. So, if you keep your eyebrows in a relaxed state, you can see that sometimes it still registers them as going up. It's a little finicky, but you move around it. What you want to do is raise your eyebrows, go between relaxing and raising. Take mind of what this state is here. At its relaxed, you can see that's about 2-ish for me. But if I raise my eyebrows, it goes above 5.5. So, what you want to do is you want to pay attention to your BlendShape mapping, because This can all be different depending on your own facial features and on your webcam itself. This will not be the same for everyone. I wish it was, but it's not. So what we can see here is we go into this, and let me actually just add it. I go back to the other one. Put me back in the corner here how I was before. And wait for my tracking to catch up with it. There we go. Now what we can see here, if we go to character expressions, or the default expressions, I don't know what this one is, I didn't do anything to it yet, but we'll just delete that for now, it's not important. Right, so to do what I have done with the eyebrows, you just go into an add element. You want to look at your expressions, name it whatever you want. If you're doing it to lift brows, we'll change it to that. Now, you can change your layering to be whatever you want. I'm personally going to put this on, I think, 1. Yeah, 1 works. It's not too important, but your layering is essentially, if you want 2 expressions to be on at the same time, they can't have the same layers. So, say you wanted both angry and lift brows for some reason, you would need them to be on different layers for that to be able to work. If you want them to replace each other, you can put them on the same layer. I'm just going to set this to 1. It doesn't matter too much because I'm not going to be using it on this model. So, what we do is we go into target blend shapes. Now, for lift brows specifically, this will obviously depend. Your individual expression that you want to toggle will have its own stuff, but the target skin mesh will almost always be either face or whatever your model's called. I've seen some people have a different skinned mesh name there, but it will be whatever your face mesh is called. Then, if you're using a viewer model like myself, you can scroll down and we'll go into Browse Surprised. It's an easy way to do that. So, we have the target value there, we can see. It changes when I click enter or exit expression. I hope you can see that properly. I can't see what I'm doing, so hopefully it's working. But that's how you get that. If you don't want it to be as much, you can change the target value to something like 0.5, and that will make it enter it less, but it will still happen. Now, you want to change your exit duration to about 0.1 to have it more natural. Here we want to scroll down past game objects to trigger conditions. This will be the part that makes it move when you move. So here we have a trigger condition. You have the conditions here are empty. You want to say use blend shape value from face tracking. I click that to yes. We change this to the media pipe tracker as our face tracking asset. And then your blend shapes. This here will be what blend shapes were triggered when you raised your eyebrows. So in the tracking area when you look at the blend shape mapping, you want to pay attention to that. So the blend shape I'm going to use for this will be brow outer up left. You can also have it so that multiple go up. Say if you want to be able to raise individual eyebrows, you can have it that they can only raise if both eyebrows are up. So this is greater than, which is what we want this to be set to. So this is set to 0.5, we have it set to greater than. This is the right value for me. Again, tweak your values to what you need, but this is the value that you'll want to pay attention to from the media pipe tracker blend shape mapping. You want it to be greater than for something like lifting eyebrows. So you want it to be greater than your resting value or whatever your raising eyebrow value is. So for me, that was 0.5. Now, you see if we look at the model, and we raise the eyebrows, they do go up. I do need to turn off the delay. You want the delay off, it doesn't help. So if you turn this delay down to 0, that will usually mean that you have more control of your expressions timing. So now we can see I can wiggle my eyebrows up and down. I've made it very subtle here, just for demonstration purposes. But you can make this as much as you want. You can actually push the values up here, target value, to actually be more than 1. So if I want them really raised, I can set that to 1.5. If I set it to 5, for example, you can see they go all the way up. So you can have it as little or as much as you want, essentially. Obviously there will be a limit where it will start to just look wrong, but for the most part you can just set this to whatever you want. And the same applies to widening your eyes. There is already a blend shape for that, blend shape mapping for that, which if I can get to it will just be eye wide. So if I widen my eyes, it goes up very slightly for me. So mine would start at 0, and then I'd say that the thing I want it to be on when I want it to be widened is like let's say 0.1, because I'm not likely to go past that without actually widening my eyes. So you would just, you know, do the same again. You go to your character, you go to your expressions. If we close, oh, that one's already closed. Make a new expression. You name it. You add your target blend shape as face, and then whatever you want it to do. So this would be eye spread for that blend shape, is what that's called. Then you go into your trigger conditions, and then you add those in. So it would be blend shapes, you want to click yes, media pipe tracker, blend shapes, and then eye white, and then to whatever value you want. So for me that will be about here. And then obviously turn the delay off. Now it doesn't look like much because the value on its own for me is just quite low, because I already have my character's eyes widened by default. But if I set this to something like 4, and then you can see the eyes get really white. So this is just a little example of how you can find ways to essentially make workarounds to the sort of default expressiveness that your character will have. You can have it so that certain expressions like your anger and your sorrow will trigger if you make a face like that, if you like know which blend shapes to do that with. Sorry, this video has run a little bit long, but I wanted to make sure that I am trying to explain myself as clearly as I can. And when you're done, you should hopefully end up with something just a little bit more expressive and with just a touch more tracking than you normally would have gotten, like this. Yeah, but that is it. Just a simple little tracking tutorial for you. I say little, but yeah, hopefully this helps anyone that is new to tracking and is worried that they won't be able to achieve the expressiveness they want. you don't always need an infrared camera. Sometimes even just the energy you bring will be enough. You don't necessarily need all of the fancy tracking to bring your character to life. A lot of people have fancy tracking and they don't use it. So genuinely just be yourself, bring the energy you want to bring. And if you want to add the extra tracking and go the extra mile, absolutely feel free, and you can do it. It is possible. And personally, I think it's just a worth it little change, especially for how quick it can be for some models. Alright, I think that about wraps it up. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope that this knowledge can somehow be useful to you. And yeah, if you guys want to see any tips or tricks I've learned from Warudo for other things, such as setting up commands for your Twitch to throw stuff at your character, anything like that, any sort of commands, or even like subscriber stuff, if you want to learn how to set that up, and perhaps you haven't found a tutorial that you feel is explained in depth enough, I'm always here and I'm happy to help.